You don't have to handle all the financial responsibilities of your household alone. What would it feel like if our partner or a family member takes on a financial role or two? Grab a cup of coffee, tea, or una copa de vino, I won't tell, and join me as we discuss the topic of financial roles today. You are listening to Her Dinero Matters, the podcast helping Latinas have increased confidence and control over their finances. My name is Jen Hemphill, and as an accredited financial counselor, my mission is to help you be more confident and simplify your finances so you can save more, get out of debt quicker, and build your wealth. A quick note before we get started, this episode is also available in Spanish. So if you want to share the Spanish version or listen to it yourself, you can find it right along where you found this episode. Whether you live alone with a partner, have a family member, or members in your household, setting up clear financial rules can make managing your finances so much easier and more efficient. So, today we're going to dive up on how to set up these roles and how to make it work. This is your host, Jen Hemphill, and I am so thrilled to have you here. Before we get started, though, I want to remind you that if you want to learn more about this topic, I'm going to be hosting a live session in our Facebook community where we're going to dive deeper into the topic of financial roles. So stay tuned to the end and I'll share more details about that. Now, let's go ahead and get started with today's show. As you know, we're going to be just focusing on financial roles. So let's begin in discussing what is the importance of financial roles in a household. And to do that, we need to define what financial roles are. So essentially, financial roles are those actions that you're going to take, whether it's paying the bills, whether it's managing the money, those type of actions that have a direct impact on your household finances. Those are financial roles. So someone is taking on the responsibility of managing and taking care of that role. And so it's really important to have clear financial roles. And what I find is that typically in households, there may be one person that manages all aspects of the money, or there's really no discussion as to who is going to do what. And then that's when conflict and stress can begin because what you're not discussing from the get-go who's going to handle what. Having those clear financial roles, of course, is going to prevent that. And it's going to create another avenue of communication when it comes to your household finances. Because if someone is taking care of the budget and another person is managing, like, let's say the taxes, and you're going to have to have some sort of discussion at some point about the budget or the taxes. So it really opens up another way to discuss finances because you are taking charge of a certain aspect of your household, right? And the other thing to consider of why it's important. We already discussed some of the important things, but one of the other aspects is that everyone can contribute. Because this is what we're talking about in this episode is how we can designate financial roles. So that way not one person is doing it all. And it gives a sense of a person being able to contribute to the financial household feels good. So everyone being able to contribute, whether it's you and your partner just in the household, or you and your partner, maybe you're caregiving for a parent, right? And they can contribute in some way, whether it's making sure that the budget for groceries stays on track, whatever that may be. It gives them a sense of pride. It gives that person a sense of that they're contributing to the household, and it feels good. So now that we discussed the importance of financial roles in a household, let's talk about what do these roles really look like. I know we spoke about budgeting. I briefly mentioned taxes. I mentioned the grocery budget. I mentioned those things. Those are some roles. And I do want to say from the get go that in your household, there might be some unique roles to your household. So what I'm going to share with you today is just in general. It doesn't mean that it's cut in stone, and how is that saying? It doesn't mean that it's just finite. What I'm saying, this is the exact roles that you need to fill. Yes, some of those are necessary, but there's going to be, again, some unique roles to your household. Some may be a day-to-day money management, and some roles, financial roles, are more for long-term decisions. So, for example, a financial role can be the bill payer. So that person is in charge of paying the bills month after month. Another financial role is just keeping records of the spending, right? So that might be keeping track of any receipts, any transactions that anyone in the household does to keep track of that spending. If someone can be in charge of, because grocery shopping is it's a considerable item, especially now with prices going up. And so some person can be in charge of that, or small purchases. And maybe a person is in charge of maintaining the let's say savings for major purchases like a car or furniture or an appliance, right? So those are some examples of financial roles. And you can see the bill paying is day to day. Major purchases are not necessarily day to day, right? Other roles is maintaining or making sure that you're saving, investing, right? So that can be a day, long day to day. Retirement, making sure you're on track for retirement, paying off debt, expenses for the children, tax returns, insurance, keeping it doesn't have to be like so detailed each role, right? So you can put together some of these roles under one umbrella, if you will. You have to do what's best for you. There's the role of the estate plan. Is everything everything in order? Do any updates need to be made, right? And other ones could be a financial, someone to keep the household learning about finances. So it could be like a financial educator role, right? So again, some of these are essential. Others are going to be unique for your household, because maybe in your household there's someone that has a high need in terms of health, and maybe there's a lot of medical expenses. So that could be a role of managing those expenses, because it's a significant amount. There's so many ways to go about. There's not just one way, and you have to look at your household. You have to look at the needs of your household and determine what those roles are. So to keep your household running financially, what do you need? That's where I would start, is asking, what is it that you need? Okay, yes, you need to maintain a budget. What else do you need to make sure that your household is running smoothly financially? I would make a list of those things, and from there you can designate the roles. So who takes on the roles? In some places, in some households, one person takes on the majority of the role. I'm a fan of everybody needs to contribute, but you have to do you, right? You don't have to do what I like, what I'm a fan of. You just have to do you, because there are no hard rules. Who handles the roles? It could be the person with more experience, or it could be the person who has more interest. Maybe they don't have the most experience or more knowledge. They just have a big desire to learn, and a big interest to whether managing the budget, whatever that case may be. And you also want to know each other's, what I'm talking about in a partnership, financial strengths and weaknesses, and that can help determine. But the big factor here is that you each agree as to who is going to carry on each role. That is critical. So yes, understand each other financial strengths and weaknesses, but just because you have a weakness in a certain area doesn't mean that is related to a role, doesn't mean you can't take it on. It just depends on your desire and your interest. But I'm going to do a caveat here. If your weakness is in shopping, right? If that's where you go and go crazy, for lack of a better word, maybe, and you know that about yourself, maybe that shouldn't be the area that you should manage, because you need someone to keep you accountable, right? So deciding who takes on the financial roles. There's no hard rules. It could be about the person who has the most experience, or the person who has most interest. It could be about the person who has the most time, and that determines which roles they take on, right? It can be about your strengths and weaknesses, right? But again, each of you have to agree who's going to carry on each role. Some other things to consider are when managing roles, it makes it easier if you, in a suggestion or a tip, if it makes it easier if you create a shared calendar for your finances. This way, you can schedule those recurring payments, or you can schedule when they're due, I should say. The calendar is not going to pay your bills, unfortunately. That would be nice, right? Have a shared calendar where you can schedule when the bills are due, when the target for you're allocating the savings contributions or investments, and what amount. Maybe also keeping track of important deadlines like tax filing, when insurance is going to renew, when your taxes for your house is due, those type of things. When your household meetings are, right, to review and your progress, to make adjustments as you need. And really, what this shared financial calendar, what it serves for, is for anyone in the household to take a look at and get an idea of what's going on in the household. So they're knowing that this date we have X bills that are needing to get paid. This date, this is when the transfer goes in for the savings or for the investment. And you have a better appreciation, or the people in your household are going to have a better appreciation of what's going on in your household financially. Now, if you have kids, they can have a role. It doesn't have to be anything huge, and it just really depends on the age. It can be as simple as, hopefully you have meetings. So if you have financial meetings for your household, it can be as simple as calling a meeting to order. It could keep kids can be great accountability partners. Take it from my own experience. It could be keeping you accountable at the grocery store. They can be, depending on their age, if they know that you only are going to spend, let's say, $100 or a couple $100, I'm sure they'll be happy to keep track, a calculator, and add up the cost of the groceries, right? So they can help you and keep you on track. You can involve them in financial discussions and about budgeting, about savings, your savings goals. And a key question you can ask them is, okay, let's say you're saving, have a savings goal for a trip coming up, and it's been hard to meet it. And you could ask your kid, okay, we haven't been saving like we want to for this trip. What would you do? So ask them that open-ended question. What would you do? And I can 90% guarantee your child is going to share some sort of tip or some sort of suggestion, whether it's doable or not. I can't say if it is, but they're going to be happy to provide some sort of suggestion, because they're being a part of the conversation. They're feeling not how they're a part of the conversation, but that they're contributing. And that, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, that is a great feeling. Remember, if you have other household members, and I'm talking outside of the kids, like maybe a parent living with you, some sort of family living with you, remember that they can have a role too. And especially if they're a part of the household, especially if they live there, and somehow maybe you're providing financially, or they're contributing in some way or another, they can also have some sort of role. What that is up to you and your household. Just keep that in mind, especially with your other household members, family members that may live with you. So I hope you have found this helpful. I wanted to talk about a little bit about roles because even though some of these things may be obvious, the key thing is we need to discuss who does what, who is going to take on the role. And what I see time and time again, it's that it remains undiscussed, and that's where discrepancies happen. That's where arguments can happen. That's where tension can happen, especially in between you and your spouse or you and your partner. So I really, really encourage you to think about what roles are needed in your household to run your finances, to keep everything running smoothly. What are those and who is best suited to take on those roles? And don't make that decision just on your own. Have a discussion with your partner and make that decision together. All right? Okay. So let's do a quick recap. Financial roles are important, as I mentioned. Why? Because it leads to less stress. And really, when you communicate openly and we evaluate our individual strengths, we are working more collaboratively. And that way, you're just on your way to really establishing a healthy financial life for the whole family. And financial roles also help in maintaining stability. All right. The roles, of course, as we discussed earlier, encompass a variety of tasks, from budgeting, managing expenses, saving, investing, planning for retirement. So, effective communication and collaboration between family members is very, very important in making those informed financial decisions, setting priorities and goals, and monitoring progress. So, the distribution of these financial responsibilities may vary depending on the household structure. We talked about that, and preferences, with some opting for equal division, right? Some may say, hey, we got to do this equally, while others maybe we assign or we designate specific roles based on skills, interest, or time. Also, remember to include your little ones, your children, because financial education starts from when they're little. And this is just an opportunity for you to educate them financially, because our goal is to create a generation without fear or limiting beliefs around money. And in including them in these roles, it really contributes to that. Also, don't forget to also include family members that are living with you outside of your children, because they can also contribute in the household finances. Now, if you're new to the concept of financial roles, or maybe you have a few more questions, especially after you listen to this episode, don't worry, because I have great news. Next week, I'm going to be doing a live session in our private Facebook group where I take this episode más allá, with going a little deeper about financial roles and sharing how to introduce financial roles to your familia in a simple and enjoyable manner. We understand that discussing money can be stressful, so my goal is to avoid that. Plus, during this live session, I'll be available to answer your questions promptly. So join us in our community at jenhemphill.com/community, and the link will be in today's show notes. Next week on the podcast, we're going to be learning how to be better negotiators. So that way we can negotiate a raise or even other things. So stay tuned to that, where we are going to meet Mandy Woodruff. Bueno, pues that is everything. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to tune into the show. You can check out the show notes over at jenhemphill.com/351. That is jenhemphill.com/351. Remember that being the reina of your money starts now, simply by claiming it. I believe in you, and so should you. Nos hablaremos el próximo jueves. Chao.